Hey everyone, Stefan from General Warfare here, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the first ever War Talks. This series is devoted to discussing everything Commander, whether it be top 10 lists, whether it be set releases, and even fan-submitted topics. For this episode, I'm going to tackle my personal picks and my personal favorite Commander cards from the new set at the time of recording, Commander Legends. This set has over 70 new legendary cards viable for Commander spots, and to go through each one of them one by one would be much longer than any one of my gameplay videos. So just to be concise, we're going to go through some of my top picks. So for today's video, we're just going to be focusing on these monocolor commanders, considering I got beat out already by the command zone for already doing all the multicolor commanders. So let me try to wiggle my way through this. So today it's only monocolor. Next week you're gonna get the multicolor commanders. As a disclaimer, this is an opinion-based list. So if you don't see your favorite cards or your favorite commanders on this list, don't get offended. And with that, let's get started. Our first commander is a Chroma, Vision of Ixidor. It is a 6/6 for 5 and 2 white legendary angel that has flying, first strike, vigilance, and trample, and has the ability at the beginning of each combat until end of turn, each other creature you control gets +1/+1 if it has flying, +1/+1 if it has first strike, and so on for double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, protection, reach, trample, vigilance, and partner, and it itself has partner. Me personally, I find this is a very strong commander, even if it's even a standalone commander, because for one, you're getting +1/+1 each combat for all the different keywords. So you can throw in big keyword cards. You can throw in like Zatalpa in this deck. You can throw in a lot of creatures that have a lot of abilities. You can throw in a whole mess of cards and a whole mess of creatures. Each one of them will get an anthem effect, and having partner itself is pretty nuts considering the amount of different commanders you can and different partner pairs you can put together with this. Like whether it be Crom, whether it be Ikra Shidiki, any of those partner pairs would pair so well with a Chroma. Our next card is Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. And this is a 2/2 for 2 and a white, legendary core scout. And it has, at the beginning of a combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipments you control to target permanent or player. And it has partner as well. So this is a fun one. It gets around having to pay for the equipment costs and having to switch around auras. Well, not even switch around auras. You can't really switch them out around once you place them on a creature. However, this is a fun one because basically at combat, you give one of your permanents or one of your creatures protection. You give them a lot of auras, a lot of equipments, make it huge, swing big, and basically this is each combat. It is a very big target removal considering a lot of people are going to get this before combat. However, I like this card a lot, especially considering it partners well with stuff like Akiri, the first one with partner. It partners well with Silas Wren, where you can just, whenever he attacks or deals combat damage, you can get another artifact back from your graveyard. There's a lot of different big possibilities, and a lot of big commanders you can play around with this. My next card is Livio, Orthsworn Sentinel. It's a 2/2 for 1 and a white, legendary human knight, and this one has 2 activated abilities. The first one is 1 and a white, choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter on it. And 2 and a white, and tap it, return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. It also has partner. So this one I find is really fun because you can protect your creatures. If you find somebody is going to try to spot removal them, let's just say somebody's going to try to path to exile your Zatalpa at this point. It's the best example, considering I just said it before. Let's say someone's going to take care of your Zatalpa, they're going to path to exile it. You just activate Livio's first ability, you exile it, the spell fizzles. Or if you're going to generous gift your big creature, get rid of it. And this also has a fun partner pair with Kodama of the East Tree. I'm going to mention more about Kodama when I get to green, but I'm going through white right now. And the last white commander I find really fun on this list is Rebek, Architect of Ascension. It's a 3/4 for 3 and a white, legendary human artificer. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control, and it has partner. So itself, it's limiting itself to base an artifact build strategy. However, this is not limiting to just to specific artifacts. You can do equipments as well. So if someone's going to try to get rid of one of your swords, or if someone's going to try to get rid of, let's say, a Luxon Warhammer, this is really great. You get giving protection to anything from any converted mana cost, and this doesn't affect just one artifact; it affects all your artifacts. So again, you can partner this with a bunch of fun ones. I have Glacian, which I'm going to cover in a little bit. You have, like I said, Silas Wren. You have Akiri. You have almost any partner that deals primarily with artifacts. You either stuff this in the deck, or you use this as the partner, and it'll be fantastic. All right, so we're gonna head on to blue commanders now, and we're gonna start off with Eligeth, Crossroad Augur. It's a 5/6 for 4 blue legendary Sphinx that has flying, and if you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead, and with partner. This is a great choice as a partner. I personally believe you can even throw this in a Sphinx Tribal, or just generally speaking, anything that has to do with scrying or card draw. This is a fantastic card to throw in there. It partners well with Siani, the Storm. Basically, with Siani, it attacks and you scry X, where it's a number of attacking creatures with flying. So let's just say primarily Eligeth and Siani are attacking here. So instead of the scry, you're just drawing 2 per minimum off it. So two card draw on 1 attack. That sounds fantastic to me. And even then, with that, Eligeth can fit into Thrasios. It can fit into Kaidel decks. I wouldn't put it for Thrasios as a partner per se, unless you want to just limit yourself to Simic. But usually, if you're playing Thrasios, you're going to be adding 1 color extra minimum. And with Kaidel decks, this is better in the 99 or 98 rather, than just having it as another partner. Moving on, we have Glacian, Powerstone Engineer. It's a 3/6 for 5 and a blue, legendary human artificer that has the tap X untapped artifacts you control. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. This one also has partner. So, as I was mentioning before with Rebek, you're basically partnering this. You have a Azorius build where artifacts has protection, and you can keep scrying and searching, or scrying to get some more artifacts to throw in there. This also, for the most part, if you're playing artifacts, you're going to be playing recursion a lot too. So you're going to be getting a lot of your artifacts back. So for the most part, having, let's just say, you have Glacian, you have 2 signets, or a signet and a cluestone. In this case, let's just say it's just the partner pair. So for there, you're just tapping Glacian for 2. You get 1 card in your hand, and you put 1 in the graveyard, and then you can just easily get the 1 from your graveyard back, depending on whatever method you have. Yeah, this also fits into other artifact build decks. Some of the ones I mentioned before is Akiri, Silas Wren. And there's another one I am about to talk about in just a little bit. But for now, we're going to focus on the last one of my picks in the blue commanders. That is Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. A 3/1 for 3 and a blue legendary human rogue. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of 1,000 Faces other abilities. And the legendary rule does not apply to permanents you control, and it has partner. So basically, it's Mirror Gallery on a body. And for one, the reason I like Sakashima, it's kind of a personal bias. I used to have a Sakashima, the Imposter deck myself, but other than that, it's a basic clone deck. This is a clone ability, and for me, I like cloning a lot of things. This seems like a fun card to play with. This seems like, let's just say you have somebody's big, like you have Ghalta on the field. You just some opponent has Ghalta on the field. You basically have Sakashima come out, and for 4, instead of paying like the 12 you have Sakashima just come in as Galta. And the best part is, the second ability, the legend rule does not apply to permanents you control. So, with that being said, you can just copy Sakashima, you can copy multiple legendary creatures all the time. You can have multiple copies of your commanders, you can have multiple copies of the same legendary creature on your side of the field, and the added effects to it. And having it as a partner definitely gives it a big advantage over a lot of the commanders we've seen in the set already. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to the black commanders of my personal picks. We're going to start with Armix, Filigree Thrasher, a 3/2 for 2 and a black legendary artifact golem. And whenever Armix attacks, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control plus the number of artifacts in your graveyard. So this is a fantastic pairing with Glacian. My personal opinion, this is, if I was going to build a Glacian partner deck, it would be with Armix, because like I said before, when I was mentioning with Glacian, you're gonna be sifting through your deck, scrying through your deck, just constantly getting those artifacts either into your hand or in the graveyard. And the fact that Armix gives them a reduction to other creatures that your opponents control or the defending player controls, that is huge. Considering you're getting rid of a blocker when Armix attacks, and let's just say this is an equipment build. So you have Armix, you give it trample. Let's say you attach it with a Loxodon Warhammer, or whatever other cards give it trample, what other equipments give it trample. If you know some, leave some in the comments. Just for the fact that it gives you such a wide, it gives you such a big advantage considering you're negating a blocker that an opponent has on attacks. If they don't even have time to time to go to blocks either. So attack step, you get rid of a blocker and you give it trample. It's a big hit off Armix. Next one we have Sengir, the Dark Baron. This was probably one of the first, if not the first card spoiled for Commander Legends by Gavin and Verhey back on the Command Zone. I don't remember what episode, whichever one it is. I'm gonna play like right here. Anyways, Sengir is a 4/4 for 4 and a black legendary vampire noble with flying, and whenever it has another creature dies, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Sengir. Whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. And partner. What can I say about this deck? This is a fantastic aristocrat deck waiting to happen. Basically, you're giving Sengir a big advantage, considering it's not just whenever a creature dies. You're also factoring in life loss. So Aristocrats is one of the ways I would go with this deck, and you can also partner this with Alharu, Solemn Ritualist. You'll see how well this partner pair works together. So you'll notice with Alharu, it makes white spirit tokens, and Sengir does not just fixate on just non-token creatures. It's creatures in general, and it's another creature. Not just limited to yours, not limited to an opponent's. So you'll be getting a very big vampire event very quickly, especially if you're playing Aristocrats, if you're playing stuff like spot removal to get rid of creatures, when you're playing stuff to constantly make sure none of your opponents have a lot of creatures on their board and enough to block Sengir. This is an optimal Aristocrats build. If you even want to do sacrifice builds with this is fantastic. If I were to build Sengir, it would be Alharu. I would also pair this with Alharu. This is, like I said before, this would be a fantastic pairing, considering you'll be getting +1/+1 counters. And whenever Alharu comes into play, you're already buffing Sengir. Yeah. What more can I say about this? All right, and my next card is the first Planeswalker on this list. Is Tevesh Sat, Doom of Fools. It is it's 4 and a black for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker that has the abilities, that has this +2 ability, create 2/0/1 black thrall creatures. +1 is you may sack another creature or Planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. And the minus ability is to gain control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. this also has partner. So with this, you're making a bunch of tokens with this card. You're basically again, and this works. Tevesh works so good with Sengir. It's going to work with the next card I'm going to talk about afterwards. But having Planeswalker with partner, especially one as powerful as this is definitely a game. It will be a game changer to your builds. I can see this being a very big, very big commander when it comes to like a lot of token decks, because you're just sacrificing other creatures and it's also giving you the ability to make tokens. This kind of is reminiscent of Gave or Gave, however you want to pronounce it. This is reminiscent in the fact that it makes tokens and you can sacrifice those tokens for added benefits. In this case, it's card draw. For Gabe's case, it's +1/+1 counters. And the fact that you can gain control of all commanders, that's big. That's big, considering let's say you get to that final 10 somehow. Not a lot of times Planeswalker Ultimates go off, but you get to that point and everyone has their commander out. You can take their commanders, you swing with them, and if you want to and just be funny, you can sacrifice them. But yeah, Tevesh Sat is one of the best partner cards I've seen in this set. My personal opinion. And then finally for black, we have Tormod the Desecrator. It is a 3 and a black for a 4/2 legendary zombie wizard. Whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token with partner. Now you'll notice it said one or more cards. Doesn't specify creatures and doesn't specify anything else, and it says leaves the graveyard. So this includes exile as well and recursion. So whenever they leave, let's just say you pair this with Sengir. In this case, you pair your Sengir with this, and you have the Gravecrawler combo, which is Gravecrawler and Phyrexian Altar. Basically, you're making infinite mana and you're making infinite black zombies. You're making also giving Sengir infinite +1/+1 counters on it. This also seems like a very strong commander to pair with Sengir. This seems like a very strong commander to pair with Tevesh Sat, considering you're also making tokens. Well, Tevesh Sat, I can definitely, depending on if you're making a Reanimator-based build. To me, I find Tormod is probably one of the shining lights in terms of the black partner pairs. Not a lot of people will play Tormod, I feel. However, if I were to build this, I would probably build Tormod with Sengir, basically with Sengir or with Silas Red. Considering with Silas, you can get those cards out, and you're creating blacks. You can get artifacts out, and you're creating black zombies on top of it. All right, so we're going to start with red. This is one of my favorite colors in Magic altogether. If you can tell with a lot of the decks I play on General Warfare, a lot of them involve red. And we're going to get started with my favorite colors, starting with Alina, Kessig Trapper. It's a 4/3 for 4 and a red legendary human scout with first strike, and it has the tap ability to add any amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn, and partner. So with Alina, you have a vast array and a vast variety of different creatures you can give with Alina. Like, you can basically pair this with Sakashima. That'd be a funny pair if Sakashima came in and it was much bigger. With Alina, you need either haste or it needs a rotation on the field. However, not only having it have first strike, but also having it be mana dork as well is very helpful if you're one of those people who wants to cast a lot of if you want to cast more spells throughout a turn, and you're not just limited to the mana base that you have. I like this card a lot, considering it gives you a lot of options, especially with that extra mana. You can basically cast more spells, even if you go to combat, you don't swing with Alina. You have that extra mana untapped. Hell, you can even use this her ability for instance on other people's turns, depending on how big the creatures are. I find this is a great card, and this partners well with my next card I'm going to talk about, Dargo, the Shipwrecker, which is a 7/5 for 6 and a red legendary giant pirate. And it has, as an additional cost to casting the spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. Has trample, has partner. So this gets around commander tax, technically speaking, all just on sacrificing. So basically, you can have Dargo come in with you have Alina already in. You cast Dargo. It'll already give her 7 mana to tap 4, and you can cast more spells off that. But Dargo itself, you can basically cast for. You can practically cast it for 1 red if you have 3 other artifacts you can sacrifice. Let's just say you have gold or treasure tokens. You can basically just sack those instead of just for the 1. But you're basically adding an extra mana just to get Dargo on the field. And it has trample, so pretty fun payoff considering it's a giant pirate. But it's also good for big swings if you want to buff Dargo as well, give it protection. Although mono red is a little limited with Dargo, I would think that Dargo and any token strategy and or any other artifact build would be really good with Dargo. Next card would be Kedis, Emberclaw Familiar. It is a 1/1 for 1 and a red legendary elemental lizard. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. I like this card. It's basically just a Saskia and just limited into 1 color. I like this a lot considering it gives you the flexibility of just say like, hey, I'm going to play Kedis, I'm going to swing for, let's just give him an arbitrary amount, 15 commander damage to 1 player. Each other opponent you have gets 15 commander damage. You go big and you basically cast Kedis, keep it protected as long during combat, so you can actually get that ability off, and basically you'll be limiting the amount of turns that your opponents have on the field against you. Now my next card, well, I was very, very apprehensive of putting on this list because I'm not a big fan of this card when I first read it. However, upon reading it for the second time, especially for this list, I decided to put it on there because it's actually a lot better than I expected it would be. It's Krark, the Thumbless. Yes, Krark finally makes an appearance. And it is a 2/2 for 1 and a red legendary goblin wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. That's really intense. That's really scary, considering if you lose, there's no downside to this. You basically get the spell back, or you just copy it for basically a coin flip. It's really scary. You basically play this in a storm deck. You basically either you put this in a storm deck itself, or you base this on other partners that have that benefit off instants and sorceries. Like I said, there's no downside with Krark. And my last card on red, I don't find this as amazing, I just find this hilarious. It's Togo, Goblin Weaponsmith. 2 and a red for a 2/2 legendary Goblin Artificer. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a colorless equipment artifact and token named Rock. With equipped creature has 1 and tap, sacrifice Rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any player and it equip 1. I think it's hilarious. I think Togo is absolutely hilarious itself. It's not great as a full-out commander. I don't even think this is a great partner commander. I just think it's absolutely hilarious, and it will partner with the right creature. I'm assuming you go Gruul with this build. Whatever Gruul commander you can do. Basically, you get a lot of lands. You basically search with green. You have a lot of land searching with Kodama's Reach. You have Cultivate. You have Rampant Growth. All those cards, you basically ramp out a new land. You have Togo on the field, and you're making a lot of rocks to throw at people. I find that absolutely hilarious. And my last two commanders for today's video are in green, and the first one is Gilanra, Caller of Wirewood. It's a 1/2 for 2 and a green, legendary elf druid with tap, add green. Whenever you spend this mana to cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, draw a card. This is pretty good, I find. I like this a lot, considering this is not just a mana dork. I find this to be good, considering you're also adding an extra mana, and if you're casting a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, you're getting an extra card draw. So let's just say you're playing this with a Rampaging Baloth. You're playing this to play a CMC 7 or greater commander. Let's just say Dargo in this case. You're getting an extra card draw off it. Regal Force gets you an extra card. Avenger of Zendikar gets you tokens and a card. I think this is great. Me personally, I think this is great. It's not, I don't think it's amazing when it first comes out, but if you give it haste and you're able to get that card draw immediately off, then it's beneficial with this card. And the last card we're going to talk about is the one I'd already discussed before. It's Kadama of the East Tree. It's a 6/6 for 4 and a green legendary spirit with reach, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or less converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. This is what I was explaining to. This is what I was telling you about before with Livio. With Livio, you're basically exiling your cards. You play Kadama, you use Livio's second ability, you get all your permanents back. It's a you may ability, so you don't want to empty your entire hand out. If you don't want to empty your hand out exactly, you basically get to play some more creatures. You get to play some more lands, anything like that, and it's fantastic. I think this is a great card. I think for me, if I were to build a partner pair right now, it would be Kadama and Livio, considering this interaction is just great. You get to protect your creatures, you get to basically put more creatures on for them coming into play or not. Hell, Livio protects Kadama whenever Kadama gets targeted for anything. And it's going to wrap it up for today's list. I'm going to have the next one up next week. Thank you all for watching, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of every single new video that comes out of the channel. And if you also have suggestions for this for any future videos, feel free to leave them in the comments. I do check them all the time, and it'll give me some more ideas for future videos that you guys would want to watch. You can also follow us on our socials, which will be on the screen right now. One more time, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.